Hey everyone, it's Olivia. You know, sometimes the smallest things can make your whole day brighter, and I had one of those moments today. I'm just bursting to tell you about it. I was walking back from the grocery store, the sun was shining, birds were singing, just a lovely afternoon. And as I approached the intersection, I saw this elderly gentleman standing at the corner, looking a little hesitant to cross the road. The traffic was pretty busy, you know how it can get. So, without even thinking, I just walked over to him and asked if he needed any help. He smiled, such a sweet, gentle smile, and said yes. Honestly, it felt like magic just helping him across. Such a simple act, but the gratitude in his eyes, wow. It just warmed my heart completely. And you know what? It totally made my day. It's amazing how good it feels to lend a hand. So, let's begin our exciting journey of English improvement together. And remember, I release new videos daily focusing on English speaking and listening skills to help you improve and enjoy your learning journey. Okay, so, you know how sometimes you just crave that good old-fashioned family time? Like, the kind you remember from when you were a kid, with board games and laughter echoing through the house? Well, I'd been feeling that pull lately. My family, we're spread out, busy lives, you know the drill. So, I decided, enough is enough. I was going to organize a family game night. Easier said than done, right? First hurdle, scheduling. My sister, bless her heart, is a doctor, works crazy hours. My brother, he's got two little whirlwinds, adorable nephews, but chaos incarnate. And their schedules are packed with soccer practice and piano lessons. And then there's mom and dad, retired but somehow busier than ever with their gardening club, book club, and who knows what else club. I started by sending out a tentative text, very casual, like, hey, thinking about a game night sometime in the next few weeks, anyone interested? The responses trickled in, a mix of enthusiasm and, let me check my calendar. See, I knew it wouldn't be simple. After a week of back and forth, a Saturday evening finally emerged as a potential winner. Okay, date locked in, phew. Next challenge, the games. I didn't want to just pull out Monopoly and risk unleashing World War III, you know? I wanted something fun, engaging, maybe even a little silly. I raided my closet, unearthed a dusty Scrabble board, a half-complete deck of Cards Against Humanity, probably not for mom and dad, and a vintage clue game with a missing candlestick. Not exactly inspiring. So, I ventured out to the local game store. Oh my goodness, have you been in one of those lately? It's a whole other world. Games I'd never even heard of, with elaborate boards and miniature figurines. I felt like a kid in a candy store, utterly overwhelmed. A friendly employee, bless his soul, saw my bewildered expression and came to the rescue. He asked about my family, our interests, you know, really trying to get a feel for what we'd enjoy. He suggested code names, Ticket to Ride, and a wacky card game called Exploding Kittens. Intrigued, I grabbed them all. Then came the food. Because what's game night without snacks? I envisioned a spread of deliciousness, something for everyone. I'm talking homemade pizza, cheesy nachos, a veggie platter for my health-conscious sister, and a bowl of mom's famous chocolate chip cookies, a family tradition. I even made a mental note to brew a big pot of spiced apple cider. It just felt like a game night drink, you know? The day finally arrived. I was a flurry of activity, cleaning the house, because, mom, prepping the food, and setting up the game table. I lit some candles, put on some mellow music, trying to create that cozy, inviting atmosphere. My nerves were a little frayed, I'll admit. What if nobody showed up? What if they hated the games? What if the whole thing was a flop? The doorbell rang. My brother and his family arrived first, the kids bouncing off the walls with excitement. Then, my sister, looking tired but smiling. Finally, mom and dad, armed with a plate of their famous cookies, they'd brought back up, classic mom move. My heart swelled. Everyone was here. We started with code names, and let me tell you, it was hilarious. My dad, bless his heart, kept giving the most cryptic clues, leading to some seriously confused guesses. Fruit, small, red, angry, he offered, trying to get us to say, cherry. We were in stitches. It was chaotic, loud, and exactly what I'd hoped for. Next up, exploding kittens. This one was intense. The kids, especially, were into it, shrieking with laughter and groaning in mock despair when they drew an exploding kitten card. My sister, who I thought would find it childish, was surprisingly competitive. Even Mom and Dad got into the spirit, though I think they were slightly bewildered by the whole exploding kitten concept. As the night went on, the house filled with laughter, friendly banter, and the clatter of game pieces. We devoured the pizza, the nachos disappeared in a flash, and the cider was flowing. I looked around the room and felt this warm, fuzzy feeling inside. This, I thought, this is what it's all about. There were definitely moments of chaos, like when my nephew spilled cider all over the Scrabble board, or when my brother accused me of cheating. I totally wasn't. But it was all part of the fun. These little imperfections, these unexpected moments, they're what made it real, you know. We ended the night with a round of Ticket to Ride, a slightly calmer game after the exploding kittens frenzy. As we tidied up the game pieces and packed away the leftovers, a sense of contentment settled over me. The house was a mess. I was exhausted, but it was the best kind of tired. The game night wasn't perfect. The pizza could have been crispier, we didn't get to play all the games I'd bought, and yes, there was a minor cider-related incident. But you know what? It didn't matter. What mattered was that we were together, laughing, connecting, and creating new memories. It made me realize how important it is to carve out time for these moments, to prioritize connection over perfection. Life gets so busy, so hectic, it's easy to let these things slip. But honestly, these simple moments, the ones where you're surrounded by the people you love, laughing until your stomach hurts, those are the moments that truly matter. They're the moments that fill your heart and make you feel, well, like you're home. And isn't that what family is all about? So, yeah, that's my game night story. It might sound like a small thing, but it meant the world to me. It reminded me of the power of connection, the joy of simple pleasures, and the importance of making time for the people who matter most. You should try it sometime. It might be just what you need. Who knows, you might even rediscover your love for board games, exploding kittens and all. Okay, so, picture this. It was supposed to be this idyllic weekend getaway, right? A cozy cabin in the woods, crackling fireplace, the whole 9 yards. My best friend, Sarah, and I had planned it for months. A total escape from the city, the deadlines, the whole shebang. We packed enough snacks to feed a small army, downloaded a ridiculous amount of podcasts, and hit the road, singing along to some truly questionable 90s pop. The weather forecast? Sunny skies, mild temperatures. Perfect. Famous last words, am I right? We arrived at the cabin, this adorable little thing nestled amongst towering pines, and immediately fell in love. It smelled of cedar and sunshine, and the view from the porch was just breathtaking, rolling hills, a shimmering lake in the distance. We unpacked, got the fire going, and settled in for an evening of pure relaxation. We were halfway through a particularly dramatic episode of some true crime podcast, don't judge, when the wind started picking up. At first, it was just a gentle rustle in the trees, nothing to write home about. But then, it started to howl. Like, seriously howl. The cabin, which had seemed so sturdy just moments before, now felt like a flimsy cardboard box about to be blown away. Rain started lashing against the windows, and the power flickered. Oh, Sarah said, her eyes wide. This doesn't look good. You know that feeling when you realize you're probably not as prepared for something as you thought you were? Yeah, that feeling hit us like a ton of bricks. We scrambled to find flashlights, candles, anything to combat the encroaching darkness. The wind was a banshee outside, whipping the trees into a frenzy. The rain was coming down in sheets, turning the peaceful little path leading to the cabin into a raging river. Maybe we should have checked the extended forecast, I muttered, feeling a knot of anxiety tighten in my stomach. Sarah, ever the optimist, tried to reassure me. "It's just a little storm," she said, though her voice wavered slightly. "It'll pass." Famous last words, Part 2. The power went out completely. The only light came from the flickering flames of the fireplace and our pathetic little flashlights. We huddled together on the couch, wrapped in blankets, listening to the storm rage outside. The sounds were incredible. The roar of the wind, the crash of thunder, the incessant drumming of the rain. It was both terrifying and exhilarating. Suddenly, there was a loud crack, followed by a thud that shook the whole cabin. We both screamed, jumping about a foot in the air. "What was that?" I shrieked, clutching Sarah's arm. We cautiously peered out the window, our flashlight's beams cutting through the darkness. A huge tree branch, thicker than my torso, had fallen, landing just a few feet from the cabin. Okay, at this point, I'll admit, I was starting to freak out. Being trapped in a cozy cabin had lost its appeal. I wanted my comfy bed in my city apartment, the sounds of traffic outside, the reassuring glow of streetlights. Sarah, bless her heart, was still trying to keep it together. "See," she said, attempting a brave smile. "Nature's fireworks. Pretty cool, huh?" Cool? My friend was officially delusional. We spent the next few hours in a state of nervous anticipation, jumping at every creak and groan of the cabin. We tried to distract ourselves with stories and silly games, but the fear was a constant hum beneath the surface. We ran out of candles. The fire started to die down. And the storm? It just kept raging. Then, the strangest thing happened. In the midst of the chaos, a sense of calm washed over me. Maybe it was exhaustion, maybe it was the sheer absurdity of the situation, but I started to find it funny. Here we were, two supposedly intelligent women, trapped in a cabin by a storm we hadn't bothered to properly prepare for. It was ridiculous. I started to giggle. Then Sarah started to giggle. And soon, we were both in fits of laughter, tears streaming down our faces. It was the kind of laughter that comes from pure, unadulterated relief and a touch of hysteria. We laughed at our predicament, at our fear, at the ridiculousness of the whole situation. And in that moment, the fear lost its grip. We were still scared, sure, but we were also connected, united by our shared experience. The storm finally started to subside around dawn. The wind died down, the rain softened to a drizzle, and the first rays of sunlight peeked through the clouds. We cautiously opened the door and stepped outside. The world looked completely different. Trees were down everywhere, branches littered the ground, and the little path to the cabin was now a muddy stream. But the air was fresh and clean, the sky was a brilliant blue, and the birds were singing. We stood there for a moment, just taking it all in. Then, we looked at each other and burst out laughing again. We were alive. We were together. And we had a story to tell. Getting back to civilization was an adventure in itself. The roads were flooded, trees were blocking the path, and our little car, bless its heart, was not exactly built for off-roading. But we made it, eventually, mud-splattered, exhausted, but exhilarated. So, yeah, that's the story of the time I got caught in a storm. It was terrifying, yes, but it was also kind of amazing. It reminded me of the power of nature, the importance of friendship, and the unexpected humor that can be found even in the most challenging situations. You know what I mean? It's funny, looking back, how a weekend meant for relaxation turned into this epic adventure. And honestly, I wouldn't trade it for the world. It definitely taught us a thing or two about checking the extended forecast, though. And maybe investing in a good quality emergency kit. Just in case, you know? Because you never know when you might find yourself facing down another nature's fireworks display. And trust me, you want to be prepared. Seriously, prepared. With snacks. Lots of snacks. Hey everyone. Learning a new language can feel like climbing a mountain, but remember, the view from the top is incredible. Confidence is built by doing the thing you fear. Think about it. Every time you push past that hesitation, that little voice of doubt, you're actually building a stronger, more confident you. It's like exercising a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. So, even if it feels scary, every word you speak brings you closer to fluency. You've got this. You know what can be a really fun and easy way to practice speaking? Narrating a dream you remember. It's so simple, you can do it anywhere, anytime. Imagine yourself cooking breakfast and just casually describing the crazy dream you had last night, flying through space on a giant banana, perhaps? It's a light-hearted way to get those words flowing without any pressure. And you might even discover some hidden storytelling talents. Hearing others speak fluently and feeling jealous, I totally get it. We've all been there. You're in a coffee shop, someone's chatting away effortlessly in English, and you think, I wish I could do that. It's a completely natural feeling. But remember, everyone starts somewhere. They were once in your shoes, working hard to improve. Their fluency is a testament to their dedication, and it's proof that you can achieve it too. And you know what? I was just thinking about this the other day when I overheard someone practicing English on the bus. It made me so happy to see their dedication. It also got me wondering, how often do you practice speaking English each week? Share in the comments. I'd love to hear your routines and maybe even pick up some tips. Okay, so, you are never going to believe this pillow cover saga. I mean, it sounds so ridiculously trivial, right? A pillow cover. But trust me, this turned into a whole thing. Grab a cuppa, settle in, because this is a story. It all started, innocently enough, with spring cleaning. You know that feeling, right? The urge to purge, to refresh, to make everything sparkly and new? Well, my living room was ground zero. It was fine. Just fine. A little beige a little blah. And my throw pillows? Don't even get me started. They were these sad, deflated things in this nondescript, oatmeal-colored fabric. They'd seen better days. Way better days. Like, probably back when dinosaurs roamed the earth. So, naturally, new pillow covers were in order. But not just any pillow covers. Oh no, I was going for handmade. I'd been seeing these gorgeous block-printed designs online, all vibrant indigo blues and rich, earthy reds, and I was completely smitten. I envisioned this bohemian chic vibe, you know? A little bit global, a little bit earthy, a whole lot of cozy. Now, I'm not exactly what you'd call crafty. My artistic talents pretty much peak at drawing stick figures. But, hey, there's a first time for everything, right? I found this amazing online tutorial, shout out to Sarah's Crafty Corner. And thought, yeah, I can totally do this. Famous last words. First hurdle. Finding the right fabric. After what felt like a 3-day trek through every fabric store within a 50-mile radius, I finally stumbled upon this beautiful, unbleached linen. It was the perfect creamy, off-white canvas for my masterpiece to be. It felt so soft and natural, I could practically feel the bohemian vibes emanating from it. Next came the carving. The tutorial recommended these special linoleum blocks for carving your design. Easy peasy, right? Wrong. These things were like trying to sculpt granite with a butter knife. My initial grand design, a complex, swirling paisley pattern, quickly devolved into something resembling a lopsided potato. So, I scaled back my ambitions. Way back. We landed on a simple, geometric design. Think triangles. Lots of triangles. I figured I couldn't mess that up. Spoiler alert. I almost did. After approximately a million tiny cuts and near misses with the carving tool, my fingers are still slightly scarred. If you look closely, I had my block. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. Now for the real test, the printing. I'd carefully laid out my fabric, mixed my fabric paint, this gorgeous, deep teal, and took a deep breath. First stamp. A wobbly, uneven triangle. Okay, not great, but not a disaster. Second stamp. Slightly better. Third stamp. I smudged it. You know that feeling when you're so close, but then you completely botch it? Yeah, that was me. I stared at the fabric, this pristine linen now marred by my clumsy attempts at artistry. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the whole thing out the window. I wanted to just order some darn pillow covers from Amazon and be done with it. But then, I took another deep breath. It was just a pillow cover, right? It didn't need to be perfect. It just needed to be mine. So, I embraced the imperfections. I leaned into the wobbly lines, the smudges, the slightly uneven spacing. I started seeing them not as mistakes, but as character. As evidence of the hand that made it. And you know what? It started to look kind of cool. Like, intentionally imperfect. Like, wabi-sabi chic. I totally Googled that later, by the way. After what felt like an eternity, I finally finished printing all the fabric I needed for 2 pillow covers. I let the paint dry, carefully following the instructions, this time, and then came the sewing. Now, my sewing skills are even less impressive than my carving skills. Let's just say my sewing machine and I have a complicated relationship. But somehow, miraculously, I managed to sew those pillow covers together. They weren't straight. The seams were wonky. There were a few interesting puckers here and there, but they were done. They were mine. I slipped the old, sad pillows into their new, handmade homes, fluffed them up, and arranged them on my couch. And you know what? They looked amazing. Seriously. They brought this whole new energy to the room. They weren't perfect, not even close. But they were full of life, full of character, full of me. The whole process, from the initial inspiration to the final, slightly wonky product, was an experience. It was frustrating, it was messy, it was time-consuming. But it was also incredibly rewarding. It taught me to embrace imperfections, to appreciate the process, and to not be afraid to try new things, even if I'm terrible at them. And honestly, every time I look at those pillow covers, I don't see the wobbly lines or the slightly off seams. I see the story. I see the hours I spent carving and printing and sewing. I see the frustration, the laughter, the little moments of triumph. And that, my friend, is worth more than any perfectly printed, store-bought pillow cover could ever be. So, yeah, it was just a pillow cover. But it was my pillow cover. And that makes all the difference. You know what I mean? I bet you have a story like this too, don't you? Tell me. Okay, so, you know how sometimes you get these urges. Like, sudden bursts of inspiration to learn something completely random? Well, that happened to me last spring. Out of nowhere, origami. Origami. I mean, I'd folded a paper airplane once or twice as a kid, but actual, intricate origami? Never. It started, as most obsessions do these days, with a YouTube video. This woman, her hands moving with this unbelievable grace and precision, was folding this magnificent crane. Pure white paper, transforming, almost magically, into this elegant bird. I was mesmerized. I thought, I want to do that. So, naturally, I grabbed the nearest piece of paper I could find, a crumpled receipt from my grocery shopping. Smooth, crisp paper? Who needs that when you have the passion of a newly converted origami enthusiast, right? Wrong, by the way. So very, very wrong. Let me tell you, that receipt fought me every step of the way. It creased in all the wrong places, it tore, it stubbornly refused to hold a fold. The crane, if you could even call it that, ended up looking more like a disoriented paper chicken that had gone through a particularly rough windstorm. I was starting to feel a little deflated, you know? Like, maybe I just didn't have the origami gene. But that YouTube video, the elegance of that crane, it kept haunting me. So, I decided to give it another shot. This time, I went prepared. I went to the art supply store. It was a whole experience in itself. I'd never realized how many different kinds of paper existed. There was tissue paper, construction paper, origami paper in a rainbow of colors. It was like a paper wonderland. I spent ages just stroking the different textures, feeling the weight and the grain. Eventually, I settled on a pack of beautiful, vibrant squares of origami paper. They felt so smooth, so promising. Armed with my new paper and a renewed sense of determination, I sat down at my kitchen table. I rewatched the crane tutorial, this time pausing and rewinding, meticulously following each fold. The first few attempts were, well, let's just say they weren't exactly masterpieces. My folds were clumsy, my creases weren't sharp enough, and the crane kept ending up lopsided, like it had a permanent crick in its neck. I swear, I must have made a dozen wonky cranes before I started to get the hang of it. But slowly, gradually, something clicked. My fingers started to understand the rhythm of the folds, the paper started to cooperate, and the creases became crisper, cleaner. It's hard to explain, but it felt like a conversation between me and the paper. I'd push, it would resist, then yield. It was almost meditative. And then, finally, it happened. I folded the last flap, shaped the wings, and there it was. A perfect, if slightly wobbly, paper crane. It wasn't as graceful as the one in the video, but it was mine. And it was beautiful. I swear, I felt this ridiculous surge of pride, like I'd just conquered Mount Everest. I mean, it was just a paper crane, but it represented so much more: patience, perseverance, and the satisfaction of learning something new. You know, I've always been a bit impatient, a bit of a give up easily kind of person. But origami, it taught me something. It taught me the beauty of slow, deliberate action. The power of focusing on the process, not just the outcome. And the joy of creating something beautiful, even if it's just a small, folded bird. I didn't stop at the crane, of course. Oh no, that was just the beginning. I moved on to frogs, then boats, then flowers. My apartment started to look like a miniature origami zoo, botanical garden. My family and friends were initially bemused, then amused, then, I think, slightly impressed. I even started making little origami gifts for people. A tiny paper heart for a friend who was having a bad day, a miniature origami box filled with chocolates for my mom's birthday. It became my thing, you know? There were still frustrations, of course. Times when I'd misfold, tear the paper, or just get completely lost in a complicated diagram. I remember once trying to fold a dragon, a very ambitious project, in retrospect, and after 2 hours of painstaking folding, it ended up looking like a crumpled paper napkin. I was so frustrated, I almost threw the whole thing across the room. But then, I took a deep breath, unfolded the mess, and started again. And you know what? Eventually, I got that dragon. It wasn't perfect, but it was close enough. And the feeling of accomplishment? Priceless. It's funny, isn't it? How something as simple as folding paper can teach you so much about yourself. It's not just about the finished product, it's about the journey. The quiet moments of concentration, the little victories, the inevitable frustrations. It's about slowing down, paying attention, and finding joy in the small things. I still fold origami, though not as often as I used to. Life gets in the way, you know? But whenever I feel stressed, overwhelmed, or just need a little moment of peace, I pick up a piece of paper and start folding. It's like a mini meditation, a way to reconnect with that quiet, focused part of myself. And you know what the best part is? Even the mistakes are beautiful. Because even in the imperfections, there's a story. A story of effort, of learning, of creating something from nothing. And sometimes, those imperfect creations, the ones with the wonky folds and the slightly torn edges, are the ones I cherish the most. They're a reminder that it's okay to not be perfect, that it's the journey, not the destination, that truly matters. And that, my friend, is the magic of origami. Learning a new language, especially speaking it, can feel like a huge mountain to climb, right? But what if I told you the secret is to speak like no one's judging you, because no one is? Think about it. Everyone's focused on their own journey, their own little triumphs and stumbles. So, let go of the pressure, embrace the imperfections, and just enjoy the process of finding your voice in English. It's honestly more about communicating than perfect pronunciation. You know what? A super fun and easy way to practice is by explaining how a gadget works. Pick something you use every day, your phone, your coffee maker, your smartwatch. Imagine you're explaining it to someone who's never seen it before. Describe its features, what it does, and how to use it. You can even do this while you're cooking dinner or taking a walk. It's a light, casual way to get those English words flowing. And you will not believe how quickly your vocabulary and fluency will improve. Trying to sound natural but ending up awkward? Oh, I totally get that. It's like your brain knows exactly what it wants to say, but your mouth has other plans. It happens to all of us. You might stumble over words, mix up tenses, or even accidentally invent new phrases. It's all part of the learning process, so please be kind to yourself. Every little, awkward, moment is a step closer to fluency. Speaking of phrases, you know how sometimes a single phrase can just stick with you? The other day, I was at the coffee shop, and I heard someone say, "Have a good one." It was so simple, but it made me smile. And you know what? It got me thinking, which English phrase do you use most often? Share it in the comments. I'd love to know. Okay, so, you are not going to believe this. I mean, I still can't believe it. Myself. This whole thing about finding a new shortcut to my office, it's a saga. A comedy of errors, really. Grab a cuppa, because this is going to take a while. You see, I've been working at the same place for, I don't know, 5 years? Maybe 6? Time flies, doesn't it? And for all that time, I've taken the same route. The same boring, predictable route. Train to Grand Central, then the 6. Train uptown, then a brisk 10-minute walk. Same old, same old. But lately, I've been feeling restless. Like a hamster on a wheel, you know? Going through the motions. And my commute? Don't even get me started. Packed trains, delayed trains, the occasional, interesting, smells. It was all starting to wear me down. So, last week, I decided. Enough was enough. I was going to find a new route. A shortcut. I envisioned myself gliding through quiet streets, discovering hidden cafes, arriving at work refreshed and energized. I was basically picturing myself in a movie montage, set to upbeat indie music. You know, the kind with sunshine and birds chirping? Yeah, well, that's not exactly how it went down. My grand plan started with Google Maps. My trusty sidekick, right? I typed in my home address and my work address, and then, I clicked that magical button. Find alternative routes. And there it was. A route that promised to shave a whole 15 minutes off my commute. 15 minutes. That's like, an extra 15 minutes of sleep. Or 15 minutes to savor my morning coffee. The possibilities were endless. The route involved a bus, a short walk through a park, and then another bus. Seemed simple enough. Famous last words, right? Monday morning, I set my alarm 15 minutes later, already feeling the benefits, brewed my coffee, and headed out, feeling like a pioneer embarking on a great adventure. The first leg, the bus ride, was uneventful. Actually, it was kind of nice. I had a window seat, the sun was streaming in, I even managed to snag a little power nap. Then came the park. Now, Google Maps had described it as a pleasant green space. Pleasant might have been stretching it a tad. It was less pleasant green space and more overgrown wilderness. The path was barely visible, obscured by weeds that tickled my ankles. I swear, I saw a squirrel the size of a small cat glaring at me from a branch. And the smell? Let's just say it, involved a lot of fertilizer. Not exactly the fresh, dewy scent I'd imagined. But, hey, I'm adventurous, right? I persevered. I dodged rogue branches, hopped over muddy puddles, and finally, emerged from the wilderness triumphant. Only slightly disheveled and covered in, well, let's just call it nature's confetti. And then I saw it. Or rather, I didn't see it. The bus stop. It was gone. Vanished. Poof. I checked Google Maps again, convinced I'd taken a wrong turn. Nope. According to the little blue dot, I was exactly where I was supposed to be. But the bus stop? Nowhere to be seen. Panic started to set in. I was late, covered in leaves, and stranded in the middle of nowhere. I started to feel like I was in one of those survival shows. You know, the ones where they drop people in the wilderness with nothing but a flint and a water bottle? Except I didn't even have a flint. Just my phone, which, ironically, was rapidly losing battery. I considered my options. I could try to retrace my steps through the jungle and find a different route. I could call a cab, but I had no idea where I even was. Or, I could just sit down and cry. That option was starting to look pretty appealing. Just when I was about to succumb to despair, I saw him. An elderly gentleman, walking a tiny, fluffy dog. He looked like he'd stepped straight out of a painting, all rosy cheeks and twinkling eyes. He must have seen the look of utter bewilderment on my face because he stopped and asked if I was all right. And you know what? I just spilled. I told him the whole story, the shortcut, the park, the missing bus stop. He listened patiently, chuckling every now and then. And when I was finished, he pointed down the street. The bus stop moved, dearie, he said, his voice like warm honey. About a month ago. It's just around the corner now. Just around the corner. A month ago. Google Maps, you traitor. He then proceeded to give me detailed directions to the new bus stop, avoiding the wilderness altogether. He even waited with me until the bus arrived, chatting about the neighborhood and his adorable dog, whose name, I learned, was Princess Fluffybutt. Yes, really. I finally made it to work, only slightly late, slightly disheveled, and still covered in nature's confetti. My colleagues, of course, had a field day. But you know what? I didn't even care. I had a story to tell. And the moral of the story? Well, there are a few, actually. First, never trust Google Maps blindly. Second, sometimes the longest route is the best route. And third, even when you're lost, confused, and covered in leaves, there's always kindness to be found, often in the most unexpected places. Oh, and I did eventually find a shortcut. Not the one Google Maps suggested, obviously. It involves a slightly longer walk, but it takes me past a fantastic little bakery that sells the most amazing croissants. So, you know, silver linings and all that. So, what do you think? Pretty crazy, right? Now, tell me, have you ever had any commuting disasters? I'm sure you have some stories. Spill the tea. Okay, so, grab a cuppa, get comfy, because this story is a good one. It's about the time I decided to surprise my best friend, Liam, for his 30th birthday. Now, Liam, he's not the easiest person to surprise. He's like a human. Sherlock Holmes, always figuring things out, always 3 steps ahead. You know the type? So, this was a challenge, a monumental challenge, and I love a good challenge. Liam's birthday is in July, the height of summer. Imagine. Long, lazy days, the smell of freshly cut grass hanging in the air, the sun setting in a blaze of orange and pink. Perfect. Except, Liam had been going through a bit of a rough patch. Work was stressful, his long-term girlfriend had just moved to another country, and he just generally felt a bit lost. I knew I had to do something truly special, something to remind him how loved he was, how much he meant to us, his friends. So, I had an idea. A crazy, audacious, slightly terrifying idea. I decided to build him a treehouse. Yes, a treehouse. A proper, grown-up treehouse, big enough for a small party, with fairy lights and comfy seating and everything. I'd seen this magnificent old oak tree in his parents' back garden. They live just outside the city, and I knew it was the perfect spot. Now, I am not a builder. Not even close. My DIY skills extend to assembling IKEA furniture and, let's be honest, even that can be a struggle sometimes. So, this whole treehouse project was a leap of faith, a blind stumble into the unknown. I roped in a couple of other friends, Sarah, who's surprisingly handy with a hammer, and Ben, who, well, Ben's good at moral support and making tea. We secretly met up at Liam's parents' place a few weeks before his birthday, armed with borrowed tools, a stack of lumber, and a whole lot of nervous energy. The first day was chaotic. We had blueprints, yes, meticulously drawn up, thank you, YouTube tutorials, but putting them into practice? Another story altogether. The saw was blunt, the wood kept splintering, and I swear, that tree was actively trying to sabotage us. Branches kept getting in the way, squirrels threw nuts at us, and at one point, a swarm of bees decided our scaffolding was the perfect place for a picnic. It was absolute pandemonium. I remember sitting there, covered in sawdust, sweat dripping down my face, thinking, what have I gotten myself into? You know that feeling, right? That overwhelming sense of, oh dear, I've bitten off more than I can chew. But then, I looked at Sarah, hammering away with this determined glint in her eye, and Ben, cheerfully offering us lukewarm tea and slightly squashed biscuits, and I just thought, we can do this. We have to do this. Slowly, painstakingly, piece by piece, the treehouse started to take shape. We worked every weekend, sneaking around like garden gnomes, hiding the growing structure with tarpaulins whenever Liam came to visit his parents. It was exhausting, exhilarating, and utterly bonkers. There were so many near disasters. Like the time I almost fell off the ladder while trying to attach the roof. Sarah caught me just in time, thankfully. Or the time Ben accidentally spilled paint all over the newly built floor. We laughed, we cried, we cursed the squirrels. It was a bonding experience like no other. The hardest part, I think, was keeping it a secret from Liam. He's incredibly perceptive, and I was constantly paranoid that he'd suspect something. He kept asking why I was so tired all the time, why my clothes were perpetually covered in sawdust, why I kept dodging his calls on weekends. I came up with the most ridiculous excuses. Oh, I joined a pottery class, I'm volunteering at a farm, I'm training for a marathon. He looked at me skeptically, but thankfully, he bought it. Or at least pretended to. Finally, the day before his birthday, the treehouse was finished. It wasn't perfect, not by a long shot. The floorboards were a bit wonky, the railing wasn't entirely straight, and there was a definite lean to one side, but it was ours. We'd built it, with our own 2 hands, and a few borrowed tools, and it was beautiful. We strung up fairy lights, draped blankets over the mismatched chairs, and hung a "Happy 30th Liam" banner across the entrance. It looked magical, like something out of a childhood dream. Now came the tricky part, getting Liam there. We told him we were taking him for a surprise hike in the woods near his parents' house. He was suspicious, naturally. A hike? You guys hate hiking, he grumbled. But we managed to drag him along, promising him a picnic and stunning views. As we approached his parents' garden, I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. I could hear Sarah giggling nervously behind me. Ben was humming a distractingly off-key tune. Then, we rounded the corner, and there it was. The treehouse, bathed in the golden light of the setting sun, the fairy lights twinkling like tiny stars. Liam stopped dead in his tracks. His jaw dropped. He looked at the treehouse, then at us, then back at the treehouse. For a moment, he was speechless. And then, this huge, beaming grin spread across his face. "You guys," he whispered, shaking his head in disbelief. "You actually built me a treehouse?" We all climbed up into the treehouse, laughing and chattering excitedly. Liam kept touching the walls, the railing, the floor, like he couldn't quite believe it was real. We had a mini party up there, with champagne and cake and silly party hats. We reminisced about old times, told stories, and just enjoyed being together. Looking at Liam, surrounded by his friends, his face lit up with pure joy. I knew it had all been worth it. All the sweat, the tears, the near disasters, the crazy, sleep-deprived weekends. It was the best surprise I'd ever pulled off, and honestly, one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. It wasn't just a treehouse, it was a symbol of our friendship, a testament to the lengths we'd go to for each other. You know what I mean? That feeling of knowing you've done something truly special for someone you care about? That's what it was all about. And that, my friend, is the story of the time I built a treehouse for my best friend's 30th birthday. Now, whose turn is it to make the tea? Well, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for watching and for staying with me throughout this video. It really means a lot to connect with you all like this. If you'd like to stay updated with new daily content focused on English speaking and listening, I'd love for you to follow, like, subscribe, and share. You know, before we go, it made me wonder, is there any new place you're excited to visit soon? It's always so lovely to hear what everyone is thinking about, and sharing your travel dreams is a wonderful way to practice expressing yourself in English and connect with others who might have similar aspirations. It's just fun to hear what adventures you have planned. See you tomorrow, and remember to take good care of yourselves and keep practicing.